Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 141. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And today we've got a very interesting show. We're talking AI developments in plugins, specifically in delay. Is this really needed? What's it even do? Is it worth it? We'll talk about it. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is Eon looking very not festive there. He looked like he was lost in an existential thought there for a minute. That was deep. I should have zoomed in on you. You were just like eyes down, just like it was the what's that song? Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah.
Zoom in. But how are you? I hope better than what it looked like.
Holding back the existential dread, second by second. Thanks. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing all right, man. It's been very busy over here. So I got like 1 hour of free time in the last 3 weeks, and I spent it playing the new Indiana Jones game. So that was fun.
That looks good.
It was worth it. It was worth it. It's a really good game, though. For the hour I've played, and yeah, but it's been all right. Well, I'm glad you're here, Eon Lake. We're happy to have you. Also with us today is my Audionautic co-pilot. He's also looking a little bit. Oh damn! You changed, right? I shouldn't have said anything. Should have zoomed in first. But he was also looking a little lost there. But how are you, my friend?
Knackered, for want of a better phrase. I think to share Eon Lake's to share Smiling Arrows' status. Yeah, I've come to the end of concert season, and it's been.
Was that time?
Well, we're coming to the end. I've got 2 more days. We've got one massive event on Friday.
Bye, Eon Lake.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, well, there we go. Must have offended him with how I'm feeling. Yeah, no, it's good. I've got last one on Friday, and it's been this is like the slow descent in from on high, and we're hoping for a British Airways landing as opposed to a Ryanair landing. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's been very successful in terms of we spend so much time sitting here playing with computer screens and playing in our own little world and making things happen and stuff like that, and that's wonderful and I love it. Then these concert seasons and festival seasons come through, and it's just like, right, there's an XLR cable, there's a mixer, there's a stage box, let's make it work, and it's like properly like rigging, sound design, light design in real time where there's no room for error or anything like that, and it's exciting. Probably drunk too much caffeine, but it's okay. We're moving through.
That's never a bad thing, unless it really goes to your heart or something. Then maybe you got a problem.
Have to see. Yeah, it's been good. How about you, my brother? What's been going on?
Yeah, man. Like I was saying with Eon, like just been busy, dude. Been busy, but it's good. It's good. Things are moving. I've been in those lessons. I got the studio room, so I have like the drum set, amps, and then the control room with the I think it's the Mac, not Mac Mini, but there's like a Mac Studio or something. Is that okay. Yeah, it's like that because it's a lot bigger, and then a widescreen monitor and a universal audio, like really nice audio interface. All these mics, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, it's a really cool setup there. And then they got an Arturia MIDI keyboard that's really nice. It's got like some really nice velocity sensitive keys. I was having fun. I was teaching a production class, and I was teaching arpeggios and stuff with like an arpeggiator and Logic, and it was velocity sensitive, so I set it to the filter, like controlling the filter on the notes. It was really fun.
I love that. So certain notes pop.
Yeah, and also the velocity of it. So like when I want to hit it harder, it goes like to a higher filter, and then when I hit it softer, it's like more. And I use an envelope to really make it plucky. So I love designing synths and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. And it's a cool room to be in. So I was like, ooh, now I just need to start playing drums. But they have it set for a lefty. And even though I'm left-handed, I play everything right-handed. So I'm like, what is this? Like trying to use the kick with my left hand, or my left leg. I'm like, this is just weird to me. So yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me. But hey, we got there. We're all moving up, and we're getting into the festive season. We're getting into that. We're all going to slow down. This is our last show of this year. Well,
live show. Yeah. Got to clarify, caveat that.
Yeah, I've got a couple of pre-recorded stuff. Sunwarper and I did some pre-recorded stuff at the weekend, which will air on next week and then on New Year's Day, I believe. I think New Year's Day.
I think
the
you're
first.
right. I think you're right. Yeah, we're taking the Christmas week off. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll have some stuff there. So, but this is the last time we'll be hanging out. So we've got a bit of a festive. We've getting into spirit, we're chilling down, having a bit of a rant as we do at Christmas. With
Yeah, I think Eon
Be
likes
more
primed
festive.
for a good rant today because you're a big fan of Mutable Instruments, I know, and I know it's open
Yeah.
source and all that, but I'm sure you've got some great PG rated things to say in today's second segment. But well, probably in the first segment too, since we're talking AI. But Curtis, anything else before we move on to discussing AI in our effects?
No, let's do it. Let's roll straight through. Let's have a look at Izotope first and foremost.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, I think this is kind of cool. I don't know if it's necessary, but I think there's probably a couple perspectives we can look at it from. But basically, Izotope announced Cascadia, latest addition to their Catalyst series of audio plugins. It combines advanced adaptive unmasking technology with the character of tape delay, delivering dynamic echoes, crisp slapbacks, and creative textures, all while maintaining clarity. That's the claim, that the advanced unmasking is working with the clarity to basically like keep things tidy when you do delay. As they say, it intelligently carves out space for the dry signal, enabling you to add depth and dimension without muddying the mix. Do you have it pulled up there, Curtis?
I can bring it up.
There's that video, I think. If you click the link I put, there's then a video. Go to the video. While you do that, I'll just read a little bit more about what's going on. First, I want to talk price. $50 for the full purchase. I think that's pretty cool for a delay. I almost said delay pedal, but delay plugin. That's not that terrible of a price. 39 limited cross grade from any Izotope product through January 5th. And then there's the holiday bundle for the Catalyst series, which includes Cascadia, this one, Aurora, and Plasma. I'm not sure what those are, but $129 for that. That's only through January 5th as well. Let's take a listen to what it's doing a little bit, and then I'll read a couple other things, and then basically just want to hear your guys' take on this and chat. I know Smiling Air has already kind of said, long day, be nice to watch the pod and relax while watching you vent about the creep of AI. Yeah, it does seem like AI is basically coming everywhere, and so I want to take a look at what this does and then discuss kind of, is it needed? So let's see what we've got.
Introducing Izotope Cascadia. Intelligent delay without distraction. Add depth and rhythm with Cascadia's spacious musical tape delay. All while carving out space with adaptive unmasking, effortlessly blending echoes, slapbacks, and textures into your tracks. Let's start with this lead vocal, adding ambience and dimension without distracting from the vocal.
How's your garden growing up now, honey? Did the flowers bloom like they always do? You know, I find it funny, all the seeds you sow, but you
Okay,
can't
so we'll stop it there. So you can hear there's a nice echo that got added. Basically, what they're claiming is adaptive unmasking. Cascadia reacts to the audio and dynamically creates space in the delay signal, keeping your instruments and vocals present in the mix without complex routing and long plug-in chains. Flexible delay options create everything from subtle echoes to creative textures with ping pongs, reverse delays, adjustable modulation controls for pitch drift, and more intuitive controls. They're claiming Cascadia makes it easy to make space, and over 50 presets you can choose from. And then, of course, you can do your own stuff. So, Eon Lake, let's start with you. I'll give my thoughts after. I want to hear from you guys first. Also, just a shout out to Synth Samurai in the chat. What's going on? Also, Abby, one of our patrons, is there. Hope you're doing well. Let us know. And I already mentioned Smiling Airs, but hey, Smiling Airs, what's up? So, Eon Lake, what do you think? So, first of all, what do you think about AI coming into plugins? It's already kind of been there, and Izotope has it and all that, but delay now we're looking at. What do you think?
I don't know. I think there are at least 3 of me, and they think different things.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think one of me thinks this seems inevitable. Here it is.
That's the Eon Lake from earlier that was just pondering into the abyss to the right of the camera. That was just kind of staring.
I think I need to listen to some demos, because before we said anything about it, I was thinking, how good is it? What does it sound like? Is this an epic sound like a Roland Space Echo or something that people will just really like the sound of and stick with? And I don't know. I preferred the dry vocal in that example.
Really? Yeah, I think I would have went with
so
less
much
wet.
better.
I like having delay on vocals, so I
So do
liked
I.
when they added it, but I thought like a little. I almost think it made it too clear because
Yeah.
of it trying to make it clear the point of it. That I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I almost want it lower in the mix if it's going to be that clear. I want to hear your other minds, the
Yeah.
other two
I'm
of
not
you though.
anti-delay. I mean, I'd put delay on hi-hats. You know,
You're anti-delay.
I get up in the morning and brush my teeth with delay. It's cool. I don't know. I wonder about, you know, I haven't personally had big problems with delay and muddiness. So I found myself watching the video and while they described the need for this product and thinking, oh yeah, okay. One man's mud is another man's warmth, really, isn't it?
That's
But
true. There's a shirt for you.
and it's not like you can't, you know, duck or use an expander to, you know, ditch a delay while the dry signal's present. You know, an expander would work probably better than a ducking plug-in. But either way,
Side
we've
chain
always
delay.
been able to do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I love using expanders for that. It's like the opposite of compression, and so it's kind of doing it musically. You know, with a slight envelope. It's just a compressor upside down, isn't it? I mean, it sounded like quite a nice delay. I just, yeah, the creep of AI. It's on everything, isn't it? You know, if you stand too still, you get it all over you.
So here's what I want to say is I completely agree with you. I think when I say I kind of am of a couple minds as well. Like I'm thinking, for one thing, kind of to what Smiling Ears is saying, maybe an AI assistant to monitor tracks, plugins to micro adjust their wet dry mix for levels. I kind of see the appeal in this idea to me is having something that's going the whole track through. So all these changes in resonance peaks and all the different instruments that you have coming in and out and the changes in the frequency spectrum, it's monitoring that and can keep the delay kind of mixed. Now for delay, I don't know really like how necessary that is, but I'm thinking if you start thinking other plugins, reverbs, maybe distortion, saturation, stuff like that, I could see this being really cool. Or even just EQ, which we kind of have. I think, I can't remember that plugin, but there's the one that kind of monitors live and adjusts. Is it Soothe? Yeah, that's it. Kind of I don't have it, but adjusts the EQ to kind of just keep everything nice and tidy. I think that's a really cool usage of AI just in general.
I think there's an argument for it, but
I just want to say one other thing, Jan, like really quick. The other thing I can see is using this as an educational tool to learn how to do, because you can, I mean, basically what they were doing, I think you could just throw an EQ before or after that delay or in a bus with the delay, and you could just notch out the frequencies you don't want, right? And it would sound just as good probably. And you could make it a little muddier if you wanted it to, because it's a little too clean that way or something. So I think if you know kind of what it's doing, you can do it. But learning it in this way, seeing what it's doing and being like, oh, I can clean up spaces, not even with the delay, but for future things in this way or other sounds. I think it could have a cool way for that. Or just like if you're just getting into music and don't know how to do that stuff, but you can get, like, I think a lot of times when you start making music, you come up with the coolest ideas, but you're also kind of hindered by the knowledge of everything, like how to mix it and stuff. This can kind of get you there to a degree. Anyway, sorry, Ian, like I just wanted to finish my train of thought.
You're right. But I think that the flip side of that argument is if you're just getting into music, just for God's sake, don't think about ducking vocals around delay returns. Jesus Christ.
But you don't have to with AI.
I'm on the music, write a good song. What can I tell you? The production stuff can follow in time, but the music's got to be right first, But yeah, that's a little flippant and, deliberately so. There is a point there, and there's a counterpoint. And the same thing, I think, goes for whether or not it's useful to have AI messing around with levels when you're mixing. You can tell by the words I used. I'm probably thinking I need to get a mix to sit still if it wants to get mixed. I don't need somebody fiddling around with stuff. That being said, I like recording the odd change myself. Yeah. So I think, you probably would want to get a mix quite right before you started turning things like that on. I think it's probably thing. Otherwise, it won't sit still long enough for you to actually get your balance and your stereo field and all the depth and everything, you know. But at the very end, as a little finishing touch, once you've got everything else straight, maybe it could help. I don't know. There's still the part of me that thinks this is the fun stuff, you know. This is what makes it, you know, a world to explore, a skills to hone, and so on. And it's kind of taking the fun out a little bit, but I need to accept the fact that there are people in this world that hate that stuff.
I was gonna say, not everyone likes mixing.
It's probably you know, a godsend. It's like, great.
Yeah.
Can you do the whole mix for me? Which I suppose comes back to the arguments of balance and application and what you need it for, and who you are, what you're about, and where you are in your journey. It definitely sounded okay. It sounded like a pretty clean delay. I wonder if sculpting that shape, that space out too much creates separation between the vocal and the delay, that you might actually want one to seamlessly run into the other a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree. But I wonder if, we'd have to like test it properly. You know, this is one example, one delay setting through the internet with a lot of audio.
Did I have a demo?
Well, I think that video. Do you mean like a play it demo? I'm not sure. Let's hear from Curtis, and while he says his piece, I'll check and see if there's a demo.
Good or bad, Curtis?
Well, I mean, I can see uses for it. I think it's one of those cheat sheets, right? We're seeing more of these plugins that are coming in and doing these things for you, so you don't have to learn. And the new generation of producers are less concerned with learning how to do it and just are happy to get a preset built for you or buy a preset until it's done, right? I suppose if you were making production music or you're making music for a client, you need it done quick on a tight deadline, I can see why it might be beneficial. If you're making music for fun, it's not hard to use your ears to monitor and kind of have a look at where things are getting muddy. It's a really useful skill. And I think one thing, maybe this is a projection, I don't know, but a lot of what I've been doing recently is like, okay, this is what I think should go in here, but how does it sound and how does it feel and how does it, if I close my eyes and really listen, where's it coming from? How does it sound? And I think we lose a lot of that with these kind of notions where it's done for you and where you've got a lot more visual response plugins coming through and stuff like that. I think it kind of takes away from that notion of just, how does it sound, and actually training your ears in that regard. I think that if you're a new producer, I'm going to counter what you say, Samuel, because I think if you're a new producer, I'm not sure something like this is a good tool in the sense that what you're doing, you're not actually, it's doing it for you. It's doing the hard work for you. You have to go through a period of making muddy, crappy mixes before you learn to hone your craft and train your ear, right? And you have to go through that phase. And if you've got something that just slaps it on for you, you're never going to learn that lesson in that regard.
Let me just say, I do beg to differ on that, because I think if you see it, you can then reverse engineer it. That's how I learned synthesis. I looked at patches, reverse engineer it, and now I know how to make it. I can make something new. So in that way, if you start that way, like if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, that's one way to do it. Go through the crappy mixes. We've all done it. We all had to do it. But this is just another way of doing it that I think does it. Like Synth Samurai says here in the chat, new generation are looking for efficiency and speed. That's just another way of doing it. Everyone's always been trying to optimize workflows of anything. You can look at, eating, nutrition, music making, whatever it is, weightlifting, whatever. There's always groups trying to like optimize and find the best way to do it. I think there's always multiple ways to do it. I'm just pointing out, like, I would have loved this when I started out because I loved the ideas I had in my head, but I couldn't get the mixes clean. So I could have thrown that on.
Plug-in, right? This isn't mixing.
I'm just talking. I know. I'm just talking. I love this concept. I would love to have that kind of concept.
My attitude to mix automation and tooling and so on with AI is slightly different.
Really? So just because it's a delay, you change your tune?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, have you struggled with delay?
When I did a lot of vocals with a lot of delays on it, yes. I did.
It's just not a problem I've ever had or ever seen anyone.
But just because you haven't had a
struggling.
problem doesn't mean someone hasn't.
No, I mean, observed anyway. It's just, you send some vocal into it and you tweak some stuff,
But
It's
okay,
not like
all I'm getting at
the hours I've wasted. with
trying to
delay.
tweak this delay. All I'm getting at, Eon, like
Well,
though,
now
is that it
because-
is still EQ. That's the
Mhm.
issue. That you'd still be learning, seeing how it's notching these
Is it
EQs.
EQ or is it also volume? I thought it was a blend of things that it was using to.
Well, it probably
create
is a blend,
space.
but I mean, you can see in the video they're showing a frequency spectrum that's ducking and changing and moving, so you can see the frequency spectrum. It's all just tiny little lessons learned that you could put fully towards things. That's all I'm getting at. Like, I'm not saying, yeah, I need this for delay, but you can see how it's making the delay clean by doing this, that, volume change, automation, EQ, and you can kind of go and progress that way. And really quickly, 10-day free trial. I looked at it has nothing to do with us. This is not sponsored in any way. I just think it's an interesting concept. I still think it's kind of not necessarily needed for delay for sure. I just think like seeing these kind of AI things showing you how it's cleaning things is interesting. But I will even counter myself that I found typically like what it's doing isn't usually the best in terms. Like now that I know how to do these things, I wouldn't probably notch in those areas. That's just what it's trained to do, right? But I only know that because I learned it all that way. You could find it start this way, go, oh, I like it this way, and then figure out, oh, actually, no, I actually like changing this area over here. But you have to start somewhere. And I just think this is a cool way to see it visually represented, to go, oh, that's how it's getting clean. Well, what if I want it to be muddy? Oh, I would up that area that they duck. That's all.
I think applying judgment to these adjectives, because like I said, one man's clean is another man's thin. It's all horses for courses, really. It's good that there's a trial though, because I think with something that works this subtly, you need to really hear it, and probably for a while on a number of different things to see if it's going to really lend you anything. I'm loving the self counter there, mate. That's great. I'm going to have to try that.
I'm always here to point out the good and bad. I still think though overall, like my counter is still, I think, going towards my point in that you get this visual representation of what's happening, and you can be like, oh, okay, well, if I don't like that, now I know what I don't like. What I'm hearing, I can see it now and go, oh, okay, this. Want to quickly say hello to one of our patrons, Mike, dropping in for a moment. He's probably got to go back to push 3. That's okay. Go do your music, my friend, or whatever you got to do. Thanks for stopping by. It's great to see you. We'll see you over in the Discord. He posted about his favorite piece of gear this year was push 3. So, not a surprise.
No.
Yeah, not a surprise. Yeah.
But I think it brings up a couple of things in that regard. Like you say, you liken it to Soothe 2, which is another kind of point.
Well, I'm just saying the idea of seeing frequency things. I'm sure Soothe 2 is a far, more what you would need to kind of what I'm talking about, like frequency spectrum stuff. Just want to say, Mike, making dinner for the family. Almost push 3, but you'll get there. Maybe after dinner. Go ahead, Curtis.
Well, I was just saying that I've used Soothe quite extensively, and it runs, for what it seems, it runs in a similar fashion where it kind of alters the state and essentially alters what's going through based on the frequencies and the loudness of things that are being put through it, essentially. Now, Soothe 2 has been around for a while, and it was never marketed as AI or anything like that. And now this is getting slapped on, or the notion of AI is getting slapped on. I wonder the extent to which it's there to be sold. I mean, we don't know what's under the hood. We don't know the coding that's under there, if it is really changing or anything like that. It could just be this notion of we're going to call it AI because we know it's a buzzword right now. We know it's SEO optimized, etc.
Because it's
how much of this is really? Yeah, exactly.
I don't even see on their page like it actually saying AI. Everything is adaptive.
Well, exactly.
But yeah,
and Izotope has been adaptive since day one in that regard, and they do these adaptive things quite well. Just not to say it's not going well, but I think it's just important to be aware of where we're at in the market with these things. Is it really this notion of AI that's coming through? Is it can it, or is it just something that's being kind of put there to prick your ears up and go, oh, maybe I'll spend a bit of money on that? I think that there's the plugin and then there's the marketing of the plugin, and those two things are very different situations coming
I was
through.
just thinking that.
Oh yeah. I mean, they got to sell it, right?
They got to sell it, and that. I mean, does that lean towards dishonesty? Does that lead towards anything that we potentially shouldn't be hearing in that regard? You know what I mean?
Can you guys hear this?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to play this. Let's see. Let's add the after. I would like to hear a delay and then that delay. Because it's basically a dry sound and then here's a delay on top.
And you don't see anything with it. It doesn't feel like it's totally transparent.
Yeah, it just sounds like a delay because we're not hearing, like the before is not with delay. It's a nice sounding delay for sure, but I would want to hear like this is a delay without adaptive unmasking. And then this is the adaptive unmasking, same type of delay, but now with this, cleaner mix. So yeah, I think I'm talking more about the idea and less about this plugin specifically. I do want to clarify that, like this idea of having AI in mixing and in plugins and stuff like that is an interesting concept. But you're right, Curtis. We have to think, what even is AI in this usage? Is it just a buzzword that they're throwing onto a different kind of thing? Like what's it called? Sleeping State says, I think most of the things labeled AI is just algorithmic. So yeah, like definitely I think when it comes to some of the supposed AI additions to Logic, like the session players, that's really not AI. It's just algorithms of like these are chord progressions and these settings you can change determine its velocity, and this, like, it's just algorithms. I do not think that's actually AI. They're claiming also some effects like Chroma Glow from Logic have AI. I like Chroma Glow, but I would still use like a different saturator and find the same basic, it's a saturator. So yeah.
This also made me think that sometimes I use a delay because I want it to collide with the echoes to thicken the tone. It's a tool for that in some instances. So I kind of wouldn't want it, and I'd be using a different delay at that point.
Something else.
I've also struck by the quality of the sounds that they put through the delays on I'm not really convinced by some of these demos. I would have to give it a go.
Oh yeah,
my own sound.
You need your 16 layers of synthesizers to see how it would fare. This is one piano.
I'd encourage anyone to do the same.
Yeah, Curtis needs it on his 8 or 16 bass layers. That's the real test of this plugin.
But so if you look, Izotope were bought by Native Instruments, and Native Instruments by trade are that, throw money at a plugin, call it done. Don't worry too much about synthesis. Don't worry about these things. It makes sense that that's where they're coming from. It makes sense that that's what they want to do. Just don't think it's needed. I don't. None of us asked for an AI delay or reactive delay. Like none of us asked for it, and it's. I don't feel like it's solving, and it's a solution to a problem that didn't really exist.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just wonder if we're coming at this as people who know what we're doing with it.
Like, I don't think this is gonna teach you to use delays. I think it's gonna contribute ever so slightly to not cluttering your mix up.
Yeah,
but
I'm talking. Curtis, I thought you were talking AI in totality in mixing, not necessarily just in this single effect.
I think we were just talking about the delay pedal. Really.
Are you, Curtis? Are you just talking this pedal or this plugin specifically, or are you saying AI in mixing? Because I thought I heard you say AI in mixing is an issue.
No, I'm still talking about this pedal.
Okay.
I
understand that.
For example, I got time for.
Yeah, I think like Mike says, I think if we see different types, like an AI saturator, like the one from Logic, Chroma Glow, I've not really noticed a difference in using that compared to a different saturator. It's a good saturator, but they're saying like, oh, it's listening to your mix and doing this. I will say their mastering tool is pretty decent.
Yeah, you see, this is where there's some potential gain, I think.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things that you would do. So limiting and compression are huge, and that's why you've seen algorithmic stuff appear on that, like with Izotope and whatnot, quite a long time ago, because that's where there's potentially the biggest win. Because if you get it wrong, there's some pretty obvious audio artifacts, and you make things sound crap.
Yeah.
You know, whereas some of these other things, I think that there's definitely less to be gained from, you know, taking that out of your hands and solving it for you. So yeah, I'd save the money for something that's going to help your mix as a whole, because that's where the challenge is. But just banging echoes on things, you know, it's you could do it. Some people do it better than others, but really,
I would think this would be cool as a bonus. Like if Valhalla Supermassive was like, we also have AI doing this. It's like that you can turn on and off. Like awesome.
Well, you make a good point there. It's like give me a reason to not put Supermassive on this. You know.
No, I'm just saying, I don't think this is the selling point for a delay pedal. The selling point for a delay pedal should be the delays it's doing, but everything this is boosting is like clarity and okay, that's cool. I guess they're trying to find a different way to advertise it, right? Like to push it. And like we're all saying AI is the big buzzword right now. Go with, oh, it's adaptive, it's this and that. But yeah, I think first and foremost, get a really cool delay, show how awesome this delay is, and then be like, oh, and wouldn't you know, you can also use AI in this to like clarify it and do all this. Yeah, it just seems like the major selling point here is the AI, whereas I think the delay should be the selling point. AI, yeah, they're going for the buzzword. I get it. But
it's all about the tone, the quality, what it can do, how flexible it is.
That's why I was saying, like, what I would like to see in those comparisons is a before with here's a delay that doesn't have this, after here's a delay that does have that. And I'd love to see a delay that could use, instead of just cleaning mix, like what if the AI could also change lengths or things to kind of go along with the track? Like, oh, in this part we want more feedback because it's a sparser, like, you know, just fun little experiments you could try with this stuff. It could be interesting. All right, let's go to the chat real quick and then we'll move over to Behringer. Slaving State says in the 90s everything sold was labeled eco-friendly. AI is going on every label for the next 10 years. I know. I saw something though that like I can't remember, but someone was saying like the AI bubble isn't turning out, like a CEO is like, the AI bubble isn't turning out the way, like it's going to just kind of burst, you know, and like it's not AGI is kind of like just a pipe dream or something. Mike says Supermassive on everything. Yes,
exactly.
I mean, that's something I think all of us can agree on. There's no argument here. Yeah. Let's see. Lastly, Sleeping State says, give me an AI that creates chords out of strange notes that work even though they shouldn't. I'll write a bunch of Portishead albums in a week. The session players can do that to a degree in Logic. And then I believe this was Curtis says, FL Studio is your friend, Sleeping State. Does FL have a AI thing that does that, Curtis?
They've got a chord generator, so you can put some notes in. And then it will just create a chord progression for you. And so
that's like the session players in Logic. You can do all kinds of cool things like that too. Yeah. Ableton, does it have something like that?
Huh?
Does Ableton have something like that where it just generates chord progressions? Like you can.
No, it's for musicians.
Yeah.
So every sample musician who uses Ableton is what?
It's just a fishing expedition there. Sorry for that.
I love that.
But I did
love
get
it, man.
Respect.
I mean, Ableton have been slowed on all that stuff, and they have, I mean, again, stem separation. They don't have anything like that. Chord generation, nothing like that. It's okay.
I've really been loving the stem separation because when I sample vinyl, I stem split it so I can get like isolated sounds. And then when I record jams from the SP and I'm like, oh crap, I messed up that whole section, stem split it, cut it out, move drums from another section over there, do that. It is pretty fun.
It's a very good point you make there. That's a use of stem separation I hadn't considered much, but
the mixing part or the vinyl one?
Unmixing vinyl.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's fun, man. That's what the last 2 live streams I did. I used that. Yeah. And even like I split Curtis's track, You Are the Sun, and took just the guitar and then made a song using his guitar. I repitched his guitar, and that was the basis. I added drums and all this. And then I stem split that jam I made to fix all the little like, oh, this drum part, let's move it here, do that. So layers and layers of stem splitting.
We heard you like stem split.
Putting an echo in there that didn't get.
I need an AI echo.
Given there must be a certain amount of artifacting going on in that, it would just be a total waste of time, wouldn't it?
I don't know if it had AI, it could sense the artifacts, though, right? It could clean it up.
Anyway, it's just before Christmas, relatively cheap, little gateway into Izotope. Because Izotope do
interesting plugin though, right? Like,
well,
I mean, it's needed. Like,
well, exactly.
AI for it. Like, is that? I mean, like I said,
none of us.
I think it's cool. Like, I think it's not the selling point for a delay plugin. I keep wanting to say pedal. I think it's an interesting feature, and I think other plugins would greatly benefit from having these like AI things. But as the selling point for a delay, it's an interesting one.
Again, SEO optimized.
Exactly.
I think for me, adaptive functionality is more useful for things like, like the old Waves plugin, Bass Rider, and things like that. To, try and make something consistent in volume in a mix or something that isn't, without necessarily compressing or limiting it. Things like that adapt to an input and give you a steady output. That could be useful, but messing around with my delay while I'm playing stuff through it, you're going to get a hit.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. There was one other thing I wanted to read before we move on from Sleeping State. In theory, AI should change the output with repeat runs as it's learning, but I don't think that happens. That's an interesting point, because you would think as it keeps hearing the thing, it would kind of keep adapting, right? Just an interesting thought, unless it's like,
it's not AI, then, is it? In that sense, it's not, because it hits the nail on the head. Absolutely, hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, just an interesting point. But moving on from there, we'll head over to Behringer in just a second. But I want to mention that this show is brought to you by our patrons who help support the show and keep the lights on each week. If you want to help support the channel and also get some awesome stuff like exclusive sample packs, Discord channels, and the ability to come on the show, and you could let us know all about your thoughts about AI and delay pedals and plugins, head to patreon.com/audionautic. Curtis.
Yeah. We got new sample pack coming out probably next week. I finish work next week, so I'll finish it off. It's sitting there ready to go. Just need to kind of do all the artwork and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Because it got sleigh bells with
it. Yeah, he sent me some so he could throw those in.
These, well, not on this occasion. Our sample packs are all from our own work and our own synthesis. So we're not repackaging packs from elsewhere, schematics or anything like that. We go out into the world, we record stuff just because for the fun of it, then we package them up from ourselves. So they're completely 100% original, and they're from the real world. Definitely not AI. Definitely,
they're organic. Organic samples.
Exactly. They're great. So that's another reason. It helps keeps the lights on, like someone said. We really appreciate your support. It's been a fantastic year just in terms of the community growing, what we've done. We've released a lot of music on the label, and we've grown a community here every week on Wednesdays. And it's thanks to you guys that we can keep doing this. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, the last thing I want to add, and we'll talk about it more in the grateful section, but we did, well, we're not talking about Spotify Wrapped for artists and stuff. We did do it for our podcast because they do Spotify Wrapped for podcasts. And it turns out we're in the top 20% of video podcasts on Spotify. So that's pretty crazy. So just want to say thanks to everybody. We've seen a lot of growth over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you are listening there, welcome. If you would like to help boost eyes and ears on the show and help spread the word with just a little effort, just give it a rating. And if you can, give it a review, or on Spotify, you can also comment now. They're really trying to compete with YouTube, I guess. But leave a comment. Let us know what you're enjoying. But yeah, just want to say thank you to everyone. And of course, all of you on YouTube, you're what make this channel. So yeah, massive thanks. But moving on from there, we're going to go over to Behringer. So they've got something new, something a little bit different. And Curtis, is going to let us know all about this. And then I want to hear from Eon Lake, because I know he's a fan of what this is kind of cloning. So, Curtis, what have we got going on?
Let me just bring my notes over to this side so we can see what's going down.
It.
So they've got modular, full modular, not semi-modular. Like they had those semi-modular boxes out recently, but no, this is a full modular box, and it's a clone of the Mutable Instruments Blade module, and they've called it Swords, which is very imaginative and very different. Now, it must be prefaced by saying Mutable Instruments closed in 2022. I remember a lot of us in the community were very sad about that when they did close down. And everything that they have created is part of their open source. So technically, they haven't stolen anything, Behringer, on this account, on this time. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'll run through the specs, and then we'll have a little discussion about it. So it's a dual multi-mode filter with a wide range of smooth to aggressive tones. It's got 2 12 decibel state variable filters. It's analog circuitry based on 2164 semiconductors. There's continuous morphing from low pass to band pass and high pass filtering. Overdrive involved in there with soft clipping and wave folding, self-oscillation at high frequencies, and a continuously variable and CV controlled routing from single to parallel series. And it is Eurorack compatible in that regard, which is always a nice thing to do. If you have bought a Eurorack module, everyone seems to like it. I open the screen and there is a thing here. Someone, what's going on? You're muted, brother. You're muted.
Apparently I was muted. I did not do that. Yeah, this is what we want to hear. This is actually the video of the sounds. But I do want to mention someone that uses ChatGPT a lot, and if anybody else does, notice anything about that title there?
Yeah, it's very ChatGPT.
Unleash is like ChatGPT's favorite word. So yeah, I thought that was fun. Anyways, let's hear what it sounds like a little bit. Sword is here.
Probably one of the best stereo analog filter in the Eurorack world, with state-of-the-art analog circuitry based on the legendary 2164 semiconductors. Introducing Swords. Swords has 2 12 dB.
Okay, we'll stop it there. Were you guys able to hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I don't typically share the audio screen, so I wanted to make sure. So, Eon Lake, what do you think? PG, please.
Yeah.
I do want to stress that before, because I can almost sense.
Disclaimer. I Mutable Instruments was a bit of a Eurorack cliche, really, back in the day, and still is to some extent now, especially with clouds. But for a reason, they were really well designed. They were really nicely made. They always had some secret hidden functions or modes that were not part of the selling point. It's just little Easter eggs for you. I was always a big fan, still am. Very sorry that Emily decided to stop it, but there you go. It was open sourced. There's nothing particularly naughty here that Behringer are doing. That people would compare it to some of the other things that have been copied. Like they've made, I think, Roland System 100 Eurorack modules, ones that sort of are very similar to that. So there are a lot of vendors out there that do a reasonable business doing mutable clones, and you kind of need them to a certain extent because there aren't enough to go around. Usually when they clone them, though, I mean, there are a lot of ones like there are U-braids and things like that where they've shrunk the original module. They've made it, you know, exactly the same functionality, maybe added some functionality, and maybe they've reduced the size by a third or something. So because mutable modules were always quite large, there isn't really that benefit here. The only benefit that I'm seeing, obviously, seems to be the price. That it's a hell of a lot cheaper. It's an ugly thing, though, isn't it? Really, I'm honest. It's like having a tooth missing, putting that in your Eurorack, isn't it?
It's a great
It's
way
a
of putting it.
monster. And it looks really,
Stylistically, yeah. It's a bit off.
The lettering on the front panel and everything. I'd be wanting to change the panel on that pretty quick. I like the ring on it. It's just yeah, I mean, it's a stereo filter. There was nothing wrong with the original. They've copied it, so you know it'll be good. It's quite cheap. I wonder how well they'll last, because something about the price gives me the fear, to be honest.
$100, yeah.
Look at that.
Is it the fact that they're a huge organization and they're able to make use of better, economies of scale and offer things like this cheaper, because they're being open about the components used to actually generate the sound? But yeah, I don't know. I find myself being a little bit suspicious, but that could just be bias and not necessarily based in anything concrete, because the evidence appears to be the contrary, and it's just the fact that it's them making it. They can afford to do it a bit cheaper, and they're deliberately undercutting other people. But when I think about what I want to put in my Eurorack case, and I would like a version of their ripples, the stereo filter, I think I'll be looking at other places for ones that don't look quite so dog ugly.
So it's the look that just completely makes you hesitant, or push away from it.
I am quite shallow in a number of ways. But yeah, I mean, it seems to do the job. I mean, it filters stuff, and there's a left and a right, or 2 channels. So if
Job well done.
This will filter it. Yeah.
I mean, it's fair enough in that regard. I know what you mean. It's okay. So I suppose the question becomes, in that regard, it'd be curious to see if anyone watching this or watching back gets one of these and could do a shotgun test. It was a very specific shotgun test, but try it out and put it in the Discord. It's very specific, but I'd love to know. I'm seeing it. I see where you're coming from, Ian Lake, especially when it's a bit rank. It looks a bit rank. I think the $99 is really interesting, because we've done modular since day one. We've talked about modular. Some more and I trying to get into modular, and then not, but basically coming down to
what's the one biggest complaint? It's always money. So when someone brings out something that isn't hideously expensive, what do I do? Exactly. I'm part of the problem.
Well, so this is affordable. This is get in, and I'm seeing this again. I'm coming from the education perspective. Yes, it's grim, but firstly, it's dark, and so any stains and spills from kids will be masked, and also the fonting is clear. So if you've got any neurodivergent kids who struggle, any dyslexic kids or anything, that's not going to be a problem. Incredibly accessible. So that's like an educational facilities gateway into modular right there. We talk about having the modular system in the media department for the kids to kind of fill with and stuff like that. Like that's a $99 module that could work. You could throw a couple of them together, and before you know it, you've got a load of spicy modular synthesis going on.
Yeah. And the fact that it's hideous won't matter if you save the money on all the other modules as well. They're all Behringer and look horrible.
There you go. Problem solved.
The modular monster.
Modern problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I also think it's, in one way, it's kind of cool, because if Mutable Instruments is no more and the stuff is open source, then it's cool for kind of like preservation sake to see options out there, especially affordable ones, so people can get kind of acclimated or get these awesome modules and stuff. So yeah, I think it's cool. I like seeing these budget friendly things. I think that's cool, especially with modular, because as someone who's always been interested in modular, but the price point keeps me away. I mean, I think that's it's nice. Yeah, the look maybe doesn't do it any favors, but that's all right. A couple bits of chat that I want to read through real quick. Sleeping State says, wonder how many of those Spotify bucks you'll get for being in their top 20%. And it's 0. We're not monetized at the moment. We're not on YouTube either. We're only supported by patrons. So if you do want to help support the channel, that is the best way to do it. But yeah. And then Smiling Air says, is it drastically better? This is for Eon Lake, let's say. Is it drastically better than what is available via software? for Mutable Instruments?
I've just replied to that.
There you go. Why don't you just read what you said? There you go.
There is a richness of sound that's hard to replicate in software. You know, the real thing tends to sound a little bit more perky to my ears. But if you've got it in software, it means the one thing about Eurorack that's destructive, you unpatch it or move one knob a tiny bit too far and you completely lose your sound. You can move it back perfectly, something that you were doing 6 months ago. It can get a bit heavy on the CPU because I've done a number of tracks where it does have physical modular, software modular, and other synths and samplers and stuff bouncing around, and it can get a bit heavy on the CPU. But sometimes you need two of a module that you wouldn't necessarily want to spend the money on getting two of them, but having two can be really useful sometimes. So there's things that you might end up doing in software that you wouldn't do in hardware because you're not, unless you've been robbing banks. It's just prohibitive, right? So yeah, I mean, it swings and roundabouts like so much in life, and software at least will let you figure out if you can really take the hit of the real thing. Start sinking all your money into that.
Always stepping closer to the world of modular. Just need to sell a kidney. And
there you go.
Yeah, it's always
problem solved. Yeah.
Maybe only one now as opposed to two, thanks to Behringer. So it's not too bad in that sense. Anything more to say on that, Sam Walker?
No.
It's I don't think it's the only one they're doing. I think there are some other ones. I think there's a Surges one they're talking about bringing out. So it might be part of there may be other things. Yeah, there's a Surges one that looks suspiciously like a mutable with a different panel on the front of it, but I can't say for sure. But I think After Later Audio and also Michigan Synthworks also do some nice mutable copies. Personally,
would they, in your experience, would that be something you'd support first and foremost?
Well, they're the ones I've used in the past. They look a bit nicer, but they're a lot more expensive, I think.
Fair play, fair play. We'll have to see. Let us know if you guys are watching this or watching back and you've dabbled with this. We'd love to know what you think. Historically, if you've been around for a while, you'll know that Sam Walker and I have been we have the tragic relationship of modular, wanting to get into it, but always coming back to the prices and therefore not going to happen. Eon Lake has got a lovely little rack behind him. But we'd love to know what you think. Let us know. If it's something you've used, does it shape up? Does it give you the hit of dopamine that you need in the music production game? And we'll go from there. It is the top of the hour. It is, well, it's 9 o'clock my time. It's 12 o'clock. We got time for the round robin, or should we leave it for the new year?
Let's do a little quick one. Just
one
one thing we're each grateful for. How about that? And chat, feel free to chime in if there's something you're grateful for, music-wise or anything in general. Go ahead. But Curtis, why don't you lay out the thought of what are we doing here today? What's the round robin today?
Well, it's the last one of the year. It's the festival. It's the festive season. It's the season of Thanksgiving if you're in the States, and it's the time to spread joy and love for all. Yeah, so we wanted to sit here and just express some gratitude and say what we're thankful for within the Audionautic community, be it the Discord, be it the show, be it the label, whatever it is, however it is you engage with what we're doing, and just say, just say what you're grateful for this year.
Ian, why don't we start with you? You're always so cheery.
Putting me on the spot again. Well, before I answer that question, I will, of course, say that I'm grateful for these two faces I'm looking at now. Just look at them.
Right back at you, bud.
I'm grateful for these two guys. But in order to answer their question, God, it's very difficult. I could do a top 10 of things that I'm really grateful for.
You get one, man.
I could easily do a top 10, and even then, I'd have to think about it. What didn't make it in the order. The thing that I am most grateful for, and I am grateful for a lot of things, it's being able to do this, right? So what does that actually mean? This is a lot easier than it's ever been, creating things like this. And I'm able to construct or come up with ideas or make a weird noise or something that I like, and then that makes the brain go, and I'm able to add something to that and something to that and follow a flow and have an artistic sort of process, a way of doing things, a way of exploring this language, of a different way of connecting people, a way of expressing things that you can't express otherwise. That's what I'm most grateful for, if I really put my hand on my heart. And it's kind of technology that has made that so easy and so, lowered the bar to entry, or the barrier to entry, so that, other people can do the same thing, and you can find a way of expressing yourself, and you might do it differently. And I have to admit that I think most of that really comes from, computers and software, because it gives the most ability, to do things like that, and tools to do it with, and ways of doing it. But there are times when I was a kid, if I thought about what I was able to do now, I would have, it would have completely baked my mind to know that I'd be able to do these things now, and I wouldn't have been able to wait until now to get there and do it. I'd have been like a kid on Christmas morning, wanting to unwrap everything the week before. So, we are, all of us, immensely privileged to live in a time where all of this stuff is available to us to varying degrees based on your situation and credit limit. But this stuff exists and gives us a voice and a way of doing things that weren't possible before, not without a very different story. And I'm grateful for that every day.
Fair. I like that. The collective expression of us being, or vocalizing the privilege in which we are. It's easy to forget sometimes. It's easy to get wrapped up in mixes and in hardware and USB compliance and that kind of thing. And
Snare sound drivers.
And it's good, Thank you, Like, what about you, Sam Wolper?
I'm just grateful for the community, man. It's been great having the Discord, everything on YouTube, all that. Like, it's just awesome to have a group like you two. I ran to you guys when I needed those Christmas samples. I was like, anybody got Christmas samples, and Curtis came through with some sleigh bells, whatever else. Like, it's awesome to just be able to talk about this stuff and be like, oh, I did this on this, or like I was telling Curtis how I made this synthesizer in Logic yesterday in the studio, and like then talking about those velocity sensitive pads on the keyboard and stuff. Like, yeah, just being able to talk about this stuff and have a group that, their eyes don't glaze over when I mention all the types of crazy LFO stuff and adventures in sound design that I go through.
They actually understand the implication of what you're saying as well.
Yeah, they know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What about you, Curtis?
I think it's again, I think it's my word of the year. It's the vulnerability. Well, in this context, the vulnerability of the community. I think it's one thing for us to make music or make the art that we do. It's another thing to then put that out into the world. But it's another thing to then come into a forum and then start talking about it and speaking from a space of perceived authority, or just having the confidence to go and step out and tell people about your craft. For whatever reason, I think a lot of us struggle with it. Within that, I am continuously, as you said before we went before we were in the green room, somewhat, but the more you know, the more confused we are. and that's a great thing. I think I'm continuously confused by what I do, and then humbled by the notion of seeing things done a different way, and it reinforces that notion that I'm a continuous learner and a continuous hill climber, mountain climber when it comes to this. And every time I get to the top of a mountain, there's another big mountain to climb, and that's great because it keeps it exciting, it keeps it fresh, it keeps it beautiful. And that wouldn't happen if there wasn't a collective forum with the people openly and willingly sharing their own journey along the way. If that makes sense. In the name of Together We Grow, it's beautiful to watch it grow and grow through learning through other people's experiences and how they do things when it comes to production.
There you go. We got a new t-shirt, Sleeping State. Continuously confused. The t-shirt.
I love
that's
that.
good. Yeah. So let us know what you think, what you're grateful for in the comments after this ends. I think with that we'll go. I know Eon needs to eat his dinner. He doesn't need to stay perpetually grumpy. But it's been great hanging out with you all. This is our last live stream of the year. We will have our pre-recorded stuff coming out on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, which I think is 7 p.m. UTC. So you can tune in on next Wednesday. Nothing on Christmas. So we hope you all have an incredible holidays. And then we'll be back on New Year's with a recorded one. And then the week after that will be our first live stream back. So we hope you all have a great holidays. And yeah. Anything you want to add, Eon, before we go?
No, just greetings of whatever season is appropriate. Hope everyone has a good break. Just something wonderful.
Yeah, make some music if you can. And we want to hear what gear you get. If anybody gets gear for the holidays, let us know. Whether gift it or you just get it, let us know. Because we talk in one of the pre-recordings. I think Curtis is expecting to get something or something like that, but we'll talk about that in the future. Future Curtis and Sunwarper, even though it was actually past Curtis and Sunwarper that talked about it. How confusing is that? It's future for us now, but the past versions of us recorded it. And when we watch it in the premiere, it'll be present us, but previous us talk. That's crazy, man.
That's too
Happy
much.
Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, we'll end it there.
Have
a great holidays. We'll see you next time. Let me get this outro. Here it is. All right, see you next time.